Moonlighter is a visually stunning game that has you playing as a shopkeep by day and a dungeoneer by night, delving deeper into the 4 dungeons, defeating bosses, and unlocking the next one. Upgrade your weapons and armor with the loot that you sell at your shop, and go back to the dungeons stronger and ready for more action. This game will always have you considering your next move, and if you're worn out from all the action, you can always head back to the shop and sell what you've collected. Moonlighter's clash of genres is a satisfying mix of fast-paced action and relaxing shopkeeping simulation. However, as you upgrade your shop, you need to keep your eyes peeled for shoplifters and take them down by tackling them. It's oddly satisfying. When you're selling your loot, you want to sell it for as much as possible, but not so much as to anger or disappoint your customers. There is also a supply and demand factor to be aware of, so if you sell too much of one item, the demand will decrease and you won't be able to charge as much for it. This implementation of economics is very addictive, requiring you to learn the best value for each item and not be content at selling it for the same price. The game remembers how much you had previously sold the item for, so you don't always have to remember off the top of your head, especially considering that there are a lot of different items to pick up. All the while at night time when exploring the dungeons for things to sell, it forces you to think about what you have collected and prioritizes some items over others. This back and forth pool of mechanics blends so naturally together that it becomes very satisfying when you use your hard-earned money to buy upgrades for your weapons or get more people to come to your town. It really makes you feel like you've earned it. When people come to your town to set up shop, not only do you have to pay with money, but also with materials for weapon upgrades and enchantments. You can add specific weapons and upgrades to your wish list, allowing you to see which materials to hold onto when you're in a dungeon. You can also spend your money on upgrades for your shop, giving you bonuses like more space in your shop, customers tipping you at the counter, or a new bed to give you more health when you go out dungeoneering. Moonlighter doesn't hold your hand throughout the game, nor does it spoon feed you information. Throughout the first 30 minutes, it gives you just enough to let you figure out the rest yourself. It's all about trial and error, figuring out what the right price is for certain items, how enemies move and attack, as well as how certain mechanics work in unexpected situations. Moonlighter's combat can be punishing, but you never feel as though you've been cheated. When you die, you simply lose what you have collected in that run-through, apart from the first 5 items in your bag. You can also teleport out of a dungeon by holding down the Y button, allowing you to go back, sell your loot and buy items or upgrade your gear for another attempt. Don't expect to make it through a dungeon on your first run through. Earning money and upgrading your gear is the main pull of the game. The risk reward factor plays a huge role in Moonlighter. There is always that moment in the game when you only have a quarter of health left and you enter a room and say to yourself, I can do this, only to die and lose most of your loot. Moonlighter runs generally smooth, although we did notice a few hiccups at crucial moments. Unsurprisingly, this mainly happens when there are a lot of enemies on the screen acting independently at once. There was also the odd glitch that would happen in dungeons, like being stuck along the outskirts of a room and not being able to get out. When this happens, your only way out is to use your pendant to teleport back to the town. Hopefully this gets patched in a future update, but at the time of this review it does force us to drop its final score by a few points. The boss battles can be quite difficult, but very rewarding. The atmosphere is epic and really gets your blood pumping. Defeating them requires precise reflexes and remembering their patterns, just like most bosses of this genre. However, as mentioned before, the frame rate dips can cause some major frustration when taking on these monsters, and can occasionally cost you the win. But after all that, you're free to explore and sell at your leisure. That being said, there are the occasional subtle hints at sinister play at work, which keeps the player intrigued, especially those who love a good story. These story tidbits come in the form of journal notes left from previous explorers in the dungeons. This keeps the story development organic and natural, but you can ignore it if you wish. Mysteries are solved the more you progress throughout the game, resulting in some satisfying lightbulb moments. Moonlighter has some witty dialogue and can be funny sometimes, but other times the jokes can fall flat, although the Legend of Zelda reference at the beginning was a neat touch. The plot develops after you complete each dungeon. New items and upgrades also become available as merchants come to the town as news spreads of your victories, as well as them being able to get their hands on new materials from the newly opened dungeons. There's not too much that can be said about the world and level design in Moonlighter, as it is a procedurally generated dungeon crawler. It is clear why Digital Sun chose to go this route, as it would have become very repetitive if you had to repeatedly traverse the same dungeon over and over just to collect loot to sell. However, being a procedurally generated game can stifle the dungeon's creativity. Each room is always a rectangle with familiar layouts. There are many obstacles, pitfalls, and more to halt your progress, but it's always very two-dimensional. The town's design also lacks creativity, but the simple design choice does keep things easy before heading back into the dungeons. It just may have benefited from a few hidden secrets, as the NPCs tend to lack creativity in their dialogue. Moonlighter's art direction replicates the games that it is clearly inspired from, using classic graphics and aesthetics similar to games such as A Link to the Past. The pixelated art style is vibrant and crisp, making it a beautiful game to look at. Many may argue that this art style has been overplayed in the indie scene, however it truly pays off in Moonlighter, with beautiful lighting and usage of colour that brings out a whole new style of its own. There are some small touches that adds character to the town, such as the grass blowing in the wind or finer details on your gear. The enemy designs are clean and distinguishable, never resulting in confusion over what you should expect. The music often takes two different approaches. It's either calming in the town, or tense in the dungeons. The soundtrack is never a standout feature, but it certainly does its job. It's nothing to get excited over, but it creates the right mood for the right situation, which is all you can really ask for. Moonlighter's soundtrack opted to not go the chiptune route, which we believe was the correct choice. Moonlighter combines two very different genres in a very organic way. The game rewards you for delving deeper into the dungeons, and it's very satisfying seeing your hard work literally pay off. The art style is stunning and the music complements it well. However, it would take a performance patch and the ironing out of a few bugs to cement this game as a true gem.